It's the all-wheel drive event at Lithia Ford of Boise. From hunting trips to ski trips to trips to Grandma's house. Nobody does AWD like LFB, Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Eat Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the Flamin' Hot Grilled Cheese Burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
As sports fans, we may cheer for different teams, but there's one thing that we can all agree on. We want the game to be big. And with 3 levels, 30 cabanas, a 143-foot screen, 6 clean pools, and endless cold drinks, it doesn't get any bigger or any better than Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. All sports, all seasons. It's more than a pool deck. Stadium Swim. It's the only thing like it in the world.
The final buzzer is sounded on another night of Mountain West basketball, and it's time to break down the action with Tom Moser on another night in the Mountain West, presented by Circus Sports. Headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West tournament in March? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. Another night in the Mountain West has interviews, analysis, opinions after the final Mountain West basketball game of the day wraps up. All BNN broadcasts come from the Sun Cruiser Studios. Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. Crack open a Sun Cruiser and let the good times cruise. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is Lithia Ford of Boise. Check out our full inventory of vehicles online at lithiafordboise.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho. Did your team just get a big win? Suffer a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Tom Moser for another night in the Mountain West on Bronco Nation News.
What's up, friends of the Mountain West? You are here in the Sun Cruiser Studio on another night in the Mountain West on Tuesday, February the 10th. As we move through the second half of the conference season here, Sun Cruiser along for the ride. And as you see at the bottom there, say it all the time, at Mountain West BNN, although I don't see it this time, but at Mountain West BNN, gotten a lot of subscriptions, gotten over 500. Let's get a few more. Free to subscribe. Just click the link with a YouTube account. Now, only 3 games tonight. The conference seemed to kind of line this up intentionally here, where we have, some of the heavy hitters off in the midweek. A big game scheduled tomorrow, and so not the most thrilling schedule tonight, to be quite honest. You had 3 massive double-figure favorites, and they all won. 2 of them won convincingly. Even the third game, the late game here, was not super close, although the Spartans did kind of tighten up a little bit down a stretch, but nothing overly dramatic like we've seen in the past with UNLV. So the conference may have laid it out like this, is almost like a league-wide, I don't want to call it a bye, but just the way they schedule the games. It's fine. I'd rather have that. Let's get one night like this and get it out of the way. Good to have some action going. Utah State in action, which was good to get them, to watch them play. They I guess because San Diego State's off, take a half game lead over the Aztecs in conference play with an extra win under their belt. So I'm going to flip the script here a little bit and go away from what I normally do. We're going to talk about the early 2 games first, and then we'll hit the UNLV game last. Reason being, we're hoping to have Coach Passner live here on the show with us in a little bit, obviously with the game just ending. he's got a few other obligations and things to take care of. And so instead of kind of sliding him in while we're talking about one of the other games, we'll talk about those two first, and then hopefully we'll have Coach Pastor on here live while we're in the middle of talking about that late game between UNLV and San Jose State. So let's and then of course I will talk for a few minutes about tomorrow's game with New Mexico taking on Grand Canyon in Phoenix. Big game tomorrow night. So let's start with the game that I didn't really watch much of. I hate to say it. The Colorado State Air Force game. I find it hard to watch the games involving air. You guys have heard me talk about that before, right? I find it hard to watch those games. Now, we do have the highlight package courtesy of the Mountain West Network and their highlights that they put together. You can see the stats. Look, this was a competitive game for much of the first half. BJ even kind of joked that maybe we could get somebody on for Air Force. But, when I looked at the stats in the first half, Air Force shot 16 for 23 from the field, and they made 6 out of 7 threes, and they still trailed by 8. So that doesn't happen very often. I know Utah State made 11 threes tonight in the first half. That's another outlier. Like, teams don't just – it's not an easy shot, right? It's why they give you 3 points for it. So teams don't make – and I think CSU poured in 8 or 9 in the first half too. So it's not like, Colorado State played poorly, but Air Force shot 16 out of 23. That is about 70% from the field and made 6 out of 7 threes. That's over 80% from deep, and they still trailed by 8 at halftime. So there's just no way that they're going to keep that up over the course of a 40-minute game. Like, they just aren't capable of doing that, as we're going to bring these highlights in here. And there we go. So, look, they played hard. I'll give them credit. Ultimately, a 17-point loss. So credit to the Rams. It's their second win in a row. They're not exactly feasting. Well, they are feasting on the bottom of the conference, not beating the heavy hitters. But when you're slumping and you're 3-9, I think, as they were, maybe 3-8, you get back-to-back wins. That'll feel good for you and, give yourself some confidence before you head on the road. Well, actually, they'll have their return game in the Border War at home on Saturday night. So that'll be a chance for them to get 3 in a row. That they like to think that they have a chance in that game. For Air Force, I hate to say it because, they were a huge underdog here, but this was probably one of their best remaining chances to get a win because it was at home, right? So, it's just it's bleak there. We all know the situation. Rams did put up 91. I would think if you're Coach Farouk Manesh, you're probably not thrilled with the defense, right? And I'll fire the stats up in a minute as soon as we get this highlight package off here. As you look at Air Force drilling some shots, even here early in the second half, cutting it to 6, 50-44. You're thinking, okay, we're still in the game. But then the Rams made a few shots, and you can't give up 91 points if you're Air Force and expect to win the game. There's just not enough firepower on your roster to hang in a game like that. So there's Munez burying one from deep. And the Rams just kind of kept the onslaught up. Every time I peeked over or looked at the score, it was in the 15 to 17 point range the entire second half. So I don't know that Air Force ever really got it below 13. As again, there you see it, it's on 16. The Rams getting out in transition and running. As before I pull the stats up, they both teams shoot 55%. Not a high percentage game, so pretty efficient. Looking at the points per possession, the Rams 1.468, so almost 1.5 points per possession. So think about that, right? That and even Air Force, and this is where Farouk Manesh will not be happy, 1.2 points per possession. Okay, so again, I know some of these analytics and metrics sometimes are difficult to put into context, but think about that. Every possession, you're scoring 1.2 points, right? Which is very difficult to do because you don't make every shot, right? And the Rams scored 1.5 points a possession. That means if they miss a shot in one possession, they score 3 points on the next possession every time. That is just ridiculously efficient. That's how you score 91 in a low possession game. They're just, that's how these two teams play at slow tempos. But again, and you see the handshake line. Let me get it off there, and I'll put the stats on the screen quickly, just to kind of look at some of the individual stuff here. Both teams shot it over 50% from three. That's how you score up where you do here. 8 turnovers for the Rams, only 8, 13 for Air Force. Rebounds were even. Not a lot of rebounds to be had when you make over 50% of your shots and over 50% of your threes. The scoring was pretty balanced. 5 guys in double figures for the Rams. Again, off the bench, Munez with 12. And Kadulis off the bench with 12. Jorgensen, Recksteiner, and Booth all in double figures for the winners. Hoban, Sanders, and Greenberg in double figures for the losing team. I mean, look, again, Rams do what they have to do. It's a win. And let's get rid of that. That's a W. And they get a chance to get 3 in a row as they take on Wyoming on Saturday in the border war. So got a few comments here, mostly on the last game, which I will get to that in a minute. BJ asks, where does Air Force rank in terms of worst teams in Mountain West history? Well, clearly, in since COVID, I think San Jose State had a really, really bad team right before Tim Miles got there. This probably trumps that. Like, I can't see how any team could possibly be worse than this. Like, they're going to finish in the 350s in the Ken Palm, and it's just, I mean, there's just no hope for them, right? I mean, Vegas puts out point spreads to make things somewhat even, and they don't have any, like, they don't even cover these enormous point spreads. Like, no offense to Colorado State, and BJ had another question here. What do I think of the job that Ali has done in year one? I mean, look, I think he'll be a good head coach. I think it's been like it is for a lot of first-year head coaches. It hasn't been particularly smooth. I think we as fans of the conference, or as fans of the Rams, were spoiled in the non-con because they were outperforming their expectations there. It's not that they're in like a big slump now. They just kind of regressed to who they are. This is who they are. They have some decent players. They don't have the top end talent throughout the lineup the way you need to consistently play in this conference, or have a guy like 10 years from now when Ali's a veteran like Nico Medved was. I do believe that Ali will become a very good coach in the next league that they're in. They won't be in the Mountain West next year. I think it's not as easy as some guys make it seem, right? Eric Olin has been a head coach for 20 years, okay? He didn't just start like 2 years ago and all of a sudden he's this wizard, right? Leon Rice was an assistant forever, and it took him a few years to kind of put his footprint on the program here. Now, Dutcher's a little bit of an outlier because the program was in such good shape from when he took it over for Steve Fisher, right? But most guys, when they get their first head coaching job, you don't just step in and go to the top right away. So I'm pretty sure he's got a veteran staff with him. If he keeps them intact next year, he will learn. They will improve on some things. Their defense, as Jake says here, their defense has not been good. So again, you can't give up 1.2 points per possession to Air Force tonight. That's pretty bad. I think the Rams, they had a slow down slog against San Jose State over the weekend. I would have liked to have seen them build on that heading into this border war game, which means a lot to them, especially after losing in Laramie. And now you give up 74, which doesn't seem like a lot. But again, it's Air Force. Without looking at their scores, they probably haven't hit in the 70s much all year. I'd be stunned if they got into the 80s more than once or twice just by default, right? And so not a great effort defensively. And it's you can't really like say, well, we scored 90, because again, you have to consider the competition. So this is one of those where you're going to want to watch the film and figure out why you're giving up 1.2 points per possession to an Air Force team that is not very efficient offensively. And War Beast, I've mentioned this before, as far as any hope going forward in the Mountain West, even in a watered down Mountain West that we will have next year and moving forward, they don't have any hope. Like, what is their hope? Okay. They like, no, and I hate to say it like this, but nobody that, is that no established head coach is going to want to take this on, right? They're just not. You cannot retain players that have any like semblance of potential. You can't retain them. You can't buy players. You can't bring in. It's as difficult a job as there is in the country. Okay. And Jake, I have said this exact thing. I've talked about it. The Patriot League is right in my neck of the woods. I completely understand that it's a massive geographic like nightmare, right? It's a geographic nightmare for them to play in the Patriot League, okay? Especially without a partner. A lot of these conferences that do this circus, like the Big Ten, they have a travel partner. UCLA has USC. Oregon and Washington travel together. Arizona and Arizona State in the Big 12, even though it's not quite cross country, right? Cal and Stanford in the ACC travel cross country. And when the schools make their return trips out to the West Coast, they do the same thing. Maryland and Rutgers travel together in the Big 10. North Carolina and Duke travel together in the ACC. So they have travel partners. I have no idea how it would work for Air Force without a travel partner. That's not for me to figure out, but somebody needs to figure it out. Yeah, I get it, Jared. They were promised money for football purposes to stay. But yeah, I that's what I said before. They need keep football. That's fine. Okay. I know the last year or two, they haven't exactly been what they were for a while under Calhoun. But, I would trust that they'll be one of the top half teams in the new Mountain West for sure in the next few years. Okay. And so they deserve to stay in there if they want, because they stuck around. They probably could have went to the American if they wanted to or something else, and they stuck around. But man, I don't see how this is good for anybody. Even like the student athletes at the Air Force Academy, do they want to play in this conference right now? Like, it's no fun. Like, you're getting your brains beat in every night. It's like your goal is to stay within 10 or 15. And it's like, I just don't get what I don't see how it changes next year, right? I mean, so instead of losing by 36 times to New Mexico, Boise, San Diego State, Utah State, having 6 of those 7 games if you play them 7 times and losing by 30, maybe it only happens 2 or 3 times next year. And as a result, in place of that, you bring in UTEP and UC Davis, and maybe you only lose by 15 to those guys, or 12, or if you play well, you lose by 7. Maybe they get 1 win next year. I don't know, but they really need to have a discussion about that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There really isn't. So it's frustrating. It's disappointing because like I said, I don't even get it. I feel like ill, like watching their games. And that's why I don't really focus on them. I hate to say that, but it's very difficult for me to watch their games, and that stinks because I want to watch CSU. I want to see why CSU struggled defensively tonight, right? Other than maybe a slight lack of focus or whatever it might be. So it's just disappointing. So, all right, let's get to game 2. The other early game actually was Utah State at home against Fresno. These two played way back, maybe a month ago. Utah State in Fresno, they won the game by 9. It was a game where Utah State led comfortably, kind of like the UNLV game tonight. They led the whole way, never could really create massive separation. Did just enough to hang on and win by 9. Good effort by Fresno there. It was always going to be difficult here for them to stay closer in Logan. They did for the first 10 minutes. But the fact is, in every one of their games that they've had Collins, okay, they've been competitive. I'm not saying taking it right down to the wire, but not getting taken to the woodshed either, right? When they played, when they were at New Mexico and at San Diego State, and Collins didn't play, then they got ripped. Okay, they were non-competitive. But with Collins in the lineup, let me get to the highlights here. They've been a competitive outfit. Okay, and some of that credit goes to Vance Wahlberg, as somebody just said. Jake just said there. I'll put it on in a minute as we get a look at some highlights here. So early on, it was actually 8-0 within the first 2 minutes. And Calhoun went nearly full line change, hockey style, 4 in, 4 out. He left Volslev on the floor and yanked everybody else out. Didn't really like their defensive intensity. I think, there might have been like one breakdown. It was just the fact that Douglas made 2 threes. He didn't take a couple. They took a couple, wonky shots to fall behind 8-0. But I mean, that's going to fix itself, straighten itself out, right? And it did. But it was, as you see here, Fresno still 13-10. It was 22-21 or something like that, and both teams were scoring the ball. And then in the last 10 minutes, Utah State, as they've done a lot, they just kind of found another gear. They led by 14 half. I think they stretched it out even to 20 for large bits of the second half. And then, after that, it just kind of got away from them. They tighten it up late. Give them credit for continuing to play hard. They only lost the game by 13. So look, again, 91 for Utah State here, 70 for Fresno. And there were parts of the Utah State defense that weren't super tonight. And again, like I did with the first game, I will put the stats on in a minute. But just too many weapons, and that's kind of what I said at halftime. Utah State shot the ball remarkably well. What they needed to do was bottle some of this and save it for a game coming up against them. They have a tough stretch. Even Saturday, the trick bag game of all trick bag games against Memphis, when we thought back in the preseason how this was going to be a great game to schedule and get a huge game in non-con in between conference play and whatever. And now it's like an absolute trap game because it's not going to do anything for you if you win. It can only hurt you it's going to be a quad 3 loss if you would lose. So you needed to bottle some of those extra makes up for some of these games down the stretch, but you won't argue with that. They shot the ball really well tonight. They got good looks, and when everybody's firing, man, they're a tough offense to slow down because I did not think Fresno played poorly at all. Okay, Hyde-Brader, I don't know that we'll see it on here because we're just seeing a lot of makes that the conference put together as a highlight package, but Hyde-Brader got banged up maybe in the last 10 minutes or so. How many minutes did he play? He played 32 minutes. So he probably got banged up with 7 or 8 to go because I don't think he really sat much until he got nicked up. And so, hopefully he's all right moving forward here because they will certainly need him as we get a look at winding the highlight package down here in a few seconds. And then I will put the stats on for the game. But look, a good effort by Utah State. Take care of business. You win the game by 13. You get out of Dodge with no injuries or anything like that. Let me put the stats on the screen here quickly and run through what we got. We have Collins. So balance, 5 guys in double figures. Perryman, I didn't even mention him. He hit a bunch of threes in the first half. He ends with 16 and 7 assists. That's pretty darn efficient for a freshman. Collins 13. Keller has played well lately. 11. King 14 off the bench. Templin 10. So you get only 8 from Falslev. 3 for 10. He didn't shoot the ball well. 4 rebounds, 2 assists. He did his normal playing his floor game and stuff. The Aggies only turn it over 9 times. That's pretty darn good. Hyde-Brader with 19. Gorey has really been a good player lately. 21 for him and 8 rebounds and 5 assists. So when you're doing that on the road as a freshman against one of the 2 best teams in the league, 21, 8, and 5, that's pretty darn good for Gorey. He's going to garner some all-conference attention when we get to voting time here at the end of the season. That's pretty darn good. Let me get to some of the comments. We don't have as big a crowd right now. Okay, yeah, absolutely, Dax. And I wanted to say that too. Man, that first half was smooth. 45 minutes. It took the Mountain West game, so those are always quicker, right? 45 minutes, shorter timeouts. Great flow to the game, and then in the second half, it just turned into a mess. And I had real difficulty getting through the last 8 minutes of it. I'll be honest. I turned on the curling that I had recorded and watched the U.S. gag away that gold medal in the mixed doubles curling game because every 5 seconds on my computer there's a foul. The announcers kept talking about it. It's frustrating, and part of me wants to think that. It's the well, here's the thing, because it largely is the officials, but I wanted to say that when you go to the half and each team has only taken 1 foul shot, as was the case here, there weren't a lot of fouls. Part of the reason why you got to think about this, part of the reason why you get more fouls is because the coaching staffs, largely, not every single one, but largely what the coaching staffs are going to do is stress to your team in the locker room at halftime, hey, we got to be more aggressive. We got to be more aggressive. Let's take the ball to the hole. Let's attack the rim, et cetera, right? And as a result, yeah, team A, B, whatever it might be, they will attack the rim more. And as a result, you get more fouls. And so that kind of happens. I do believe we have Coach Passner here. I thought we had him. Did we lose him? We lost him. All right, maybe we'll see. We'll see if he can come back in. Okay, so teams just they attack more a little bit, right? And And what it does is it draws more fouls. Now, it just got out of hand there. They didn't need to call as many as they did, and that was very frustrating to watch. I think we got Coach.
You got me?
Yes, Coach. Do you have me? Oh, we lost him again. We're having some technical difficulty from the Thomas and Mack. He keeps trying to get in, as you saw him right there for a split second. I'm sure he's trying to locate some good Wi-Fi. We saw that with BJ the other night at the pit. And as Coach is back one more time, there he is.
Can you see me okay?
I can see you. Can you hear me?
I can hear. We're all good.
Good. All right, Coach. Coach Josh Pastner joins us here on another night in the Mountain West, fresh off of his Rebels 82-75 win, your second in a row, Coach. Listen, the last couple games, you didn't make it easy down the stretch, a little bit more comfortable here at the end. Speak about your team's effort tonight. What did you like?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a big fan of Tim Miles. I love Tim Miles. I think he's such a great coach, great man. I think they're a good basketball team, San Jose State. They're better than their record. But look, here's what I would say. We've been struck with massive injuries. Our starting point guard, our starting center. I mean, that really affected us. And our record isn't what we want it to be, but we have gotten better from where we were at the start of the year. I think offensively, we're really playing at a high clip right now, at a high rate. The way the ball's moving, we're not giving it a headache. We're not massaging it. We're making 0.5 decisions. We're playing at a really high level offensively, and we're getting better defensively. Part of that, like the Grand Canyon game, our 5 men really were great in the combat zone and was, in the paint there, and they gave us such a great lift. Today, we had to go a little smaller just because the way San Jose State, the way they were shooting the 3, especially from their 5 spot. But, we found a way to win. Winning is hard. And in the end, got ourselves a good win. And we know we got another big time test on Friday at Boise State. They're playing as well as anybody, not only in this league, but west of the Mississippi as well, too. I mean, they're a really good team, very well coached. And we'll have to be ready to go Friday night.
So you mentioned some injuries, and you got a key guy back tonight in Tyron Jones. He didn't, off the bench, 24 minutes. You had to be happy with that. I think 13 points and 4 boards. They caught the TV crews caught you in the huddle in one of your timeouts early on, stressing for your guys to attack the paint because they, being San Jose State, they don't have any shot blockers. You have one of your own. I didn't really see the final shot blocking stats tonight, but man, you could tell it was tough sledding in the paint for them. And when you got Tyron back there blocking shots, man, does it make a difference? What did you see from him tonight?
Yeah, he had 3 block shots. Really proud of Tyron. Obviously, he's been out since. Look, Miles Shea and Lodgy, our starting point guard and center, have been out the entire season. I mean, take anyone's starting center and point guard off their roster, and it's a different deal. It's not easy. Mm-hmm. Tyron's been out since the first minute of our New Mexico game about 5-6 games ago, and finally came back, and he made a big difference this evening. He had 3 block shots as well. And look, one thing that we do is we get to the paint. We do drive that ball. We do try to live in the paint. We were better tonight defensively without fouling, especially Kamani Hamilton. Mm-hmm. He defended without fouling. I was so proud of him on that. And obviously Dravian Gibbs Lawhorns playing as well as anybody as well too. And just been it was a really good win. Winning's hard. I don't care who you're playing. Winning's hard. And this is a really good basketball league with really good coaches and really good players.
Yeah, I echo everything you said right there. And you mentioned Gibbs Lawhorn. I was going to just talk about him for a second. He probably only did not win Player of the Week last week because the guy that you're going to see on Friday really was on fire, in Dylan Andrews. And you mentioned Boise. So, kind of a tough scheduling spot for you. They have off here in the midweek. You're going to go up there, so they're a little bit rested. You're going to have a short turnaround. What's it going to take for you guys to go up there and get the season sweep? They'll want to get a little bit of payback for you guys knocking them off about a month ago. What's it going to take for you guys to get the job done up in Boise on Friday night?
Yeah, Dravian Gibbs Lawhorns, the last 2 games has played 80 minutes. I haven't taken him out. I mean, he's in such great physical condition. And I'm a big believer, to be an elite level athlete, it's all about conditioning. It's all about the VO2 max, the cardiovascular heart rate. Like, you've got to be in good enough shape to be able to ride in the Tour de France, 8 hours on a bike in the Alps. And I really believe, I don't think Dre's not going to win the Tour de France, but he's in good enough cardio shape that he can ride on a Tour de France at some times in the Alps uphill on a bike. That's all about VO2 max cardiovascular conditioning, and he's at a high level. And he's not only him, but everybody's going to have to be really good on Friday night against a really good Boise State team. As I mentioned earlier, Leon Rice, one of the best coaches in the country, and we know they've had the week off. They're playing as well as anybody. It's going to be a hostile environment. We're just going to be at a very high level and excited for the opportunity Friday in Boise.
Absolutely. All right, Coach, I'll get you out of here on this one. Just one thing. Take us inside the mind of a coach when, you have your assistants who take care of your scouts and stuff. And San Jose State tonight, obviously shorthanded as well. They got a guy, Mupa Daly, who has played like no minutes all year, has scored like 20 points all year. He fires like 3 threes in the first half. Are you looking down the bench at your assistants and like, who is this guy and why wasn't he on our scouting report? What goes through your mind when something like that happens?
No, it's just, hey, I was just like, this is the year it's been for us this year. It's been a roller coaster ride. And I just said, we're just still on the roller coaster. What the heck? It's just kind of how it is. And every game is unique. Like you said, he came in, hit 2 3. He's had 2 made threes on the entire year.
Right.
And one of them was against us the first time we played him. And so, hey, he's there. Like I said, they came in fire and they were 7 from 15 from 3 in the first half. But we won the game because of our defense. The second half, we held them to 33% from the field. And overall, we held them to 38% from the field overall. And I think the kid Garland, man, is he a good player. Woof, is he good. He's really good.
Yeah, well, you guys handle both ends of the floor because Miles threw the zone at you then when their man was not effective against you guys, and you guys really kind of spread the floor out and moved the ball well against the zone. So I think you should be happy.
Walter Brown gave us really good minutes in that time as well, too.
Absolutely, yeah. Both ends of the floor, you guys are pretty efficient tonight. All right, well, Coach, go enjoy this one. 2 wins in a row for the Rebels. Short turnaround. We'll see you Friday night up in Boise, and we'll talk to you again. Best of luck.
Hey, and really appreciate the coverage on the Mountain West. And I know teams are leaving after this year. I hope you stay with it and continue to cover the Mountain West. You don't go to the Pac-12 or anything. You continue the coverage. It's important for our conference. We need to get as much coverage as we can. Yes, we have to win. All of us have to. I get that. We all get that. But the coverage of our conference is so important, and you do a great job. This is a really good basketball conference, and it's probably underrated. And so I really just want to say thank you from our side for the coverage that you give us.
Well, I appreciate that, Coach. And look, you deserve the coverage because, as you mentioned, the conference is as outstanding. That's why I enjoy doing it. So we'll keep watching, and hopefully we'll talk to you again after another big win down the stretch here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Bye-bye. All right, so that was Josh Pastner, gracious enough to give us some time here on another night in the Mountain West. As I get to probably the halfway mark here, maybe even not even over halfway mark, let's give Sun Cruiser another shout out and go subscribe at Mountain West BNN. There you go. You see it on the bottom right there at Mountain West BNN. So, yeah, look, good job by UNLV. And I will say that not just under Pastner, but certainly under Kruger, and UNLV fans will tell you for the last X amount of years, this is a game that UNLV would have lost in the past, or at least gone right down to the wire. Now, did they run away with this one by 15 or 20? No, but they were never really in doubt. I guess the Spartans cut it to 3 or 4 one time, but they never had the ball with a chance to tie or lead. It didn't turn into a fiasco in the last few minutes like the game against GCU did or the Fresno game did. They took care of business. They were coming off a nice win over Grand Canyon. They have a short turnaround in a bigger game on Friday up at Boise. So this is a prime opportunity for them to just kind of not show up. There's nobody in the Thomas and Mack, and just kind of lay down. And the Spartans made a ton of shots, right? So this was an opportunity. Let me put these up here on the screen. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate Coach's comments. What did the shooting look like? The Spartans made 11 out of 24 from 3. They shot 46% from 3, 80% from the free throw line, right? They only turn it over 7 times. Now, Miles only played 7 guys, and really 6 because Overstreet played 5 minutes. He has no bench. And I mentioned Mupa Daly, and Pastner just kind of said, well, that's just how it goes for us. But man, that would frustrate the hell out of me. You got a guy who literally was 2 for 13 because I looked it up because I didn't even know who the guy was. And he's played garbage minutes all year, and he makes 3 threes in the first half. That would drive me up the wall. So Miles basically played 5 guys, and Mupa Daly was the 6th, and he's so used to not playing. He fouled out in 14 minutes tonight. Who fouls out in 14 minutes, right? So he basically played 5 guys. And coach, it's, I got a kick out of his Tour de France analogy there with his guys, but obviously it worked because, they outlasted the Spartans here. But, Garland took 25 shots, so he's going to have to ice his shoulder a little bit like Mashburn used to. I always used to use that joke. But, look, this could have been a game that UNLV dropped. They've done it in the past, didn't do it tonight. So very good job, as BJ says, hard team to figure out. A couple nice wins, some talented players. Hamilton looked good tonight. I've been kind of critical of Hamilton because and coach mentioned he didn't foul. He only had 3 fouls. I mean, that's an average number, but he's fouled out of like half of their games because he doesn't know how to play defense without fouling. He did it more effectively tonight. So if that's something that he can do moving forward, we'll see. And obviously Gibbs Lawhorn is playing at an elite level, certainly at an all-conference level. Jake says he likes the Dent comparison. Well, we had him compared the other night to Jalen House because of kind of like the attitude. He has a little bit of an edge to him, right? Dent, I think it's more House than Dent just because Dent wasn't really your scorer. I mean, he could get to the rim like Gibbs Lawhorn can, but he's not the outside shooter. Gibbs Lawhorn's really been pouring it in from as of late in that one. What else do I want to get to here? Oh, there you go. BJ has San Jose State finished 347 that year when they were 4-27 and 1-17. Air Force is 348 right now. So, I mean, pick your poison. If those two teams would play a best out of 7, they'd probably go right to the 7th game in front of a raucous 345 people on the Sunday night on the Mountain West Network in Game 7. Okay, the San Jose State team of 5 or 6 years ago against this year's Air Force team. I mean, I don't see Air Force winning again. They're only going to drop in KenPom. They'll probably end up in the 350s, but I don't know. So anyway, look, pretty, so you'll take that if you're UNLV. You got Tyron Jones back, which was huge. He's a big spark plug for them. There's no way around it. Okay, they seem to be more, I don't want to say more coachable tonight, but they stuck to the game plan a little bit more tonight is what they did on both ends of the floor. Like I said, Miles went zone early in the second half because their man was getting lit up, and UNLV kind of took it apart. They didn't turn the ball over. What did they have for the game? 9 turnovers, okay? And, I mean, the thing with UNLV is oftentimes their turnovers are unforced. So you can't say, well, they were just playing San Jose State, who doesn't play aggressive defensively. That doesn't matter. UNLV will turn it over against non-pressure often, and they didn't do it here tonight, okay? And so credit to them, full credit. They did a nice job. They took care of business. And, like I mentioned, tough scheduling spot. They have to squeeze another game in quickly here. That's why, I guess it's just the way it fell. Boise's been off for a week. Boise will be chomping at the bit to get some revenge. They'll have Buchanan back, who they didn't have the first game. But look, UNLV will go in there with confidence. Obviously, after that Grand Canyon win and this one tonight, even though they beat a team at the bottom of the conference, they have Jones back, and they seemingly are playing, I guess, better, right? Let me get to a couple other comments here just to clean them up. What do I think of Utah State's shooting? Did they crack Fresno? Yeah, I mean, listen, I remember last year Fresno gave Utah State problems, and that was a way worse Fresno team. Maybe not quite as good a Utah State team as this year, but certainly a good team. And they gave Utah State all kind of fits in that game last year, if not twice. I don't remember. But Utah State shooting, they just have multiple guys that can knock shots down. And this is, somebody sent me, because I had said this, I think, on here the other night, that I trust more guys shooting the ball for Utah State than I do for San Diego State, probably more than I do for any other team in the conference, especially after the way that CSU has tailed off with their shooting. I mean, I guess you could throw San Jose State in there, but they don't do enough else well, and half their guys are hurt all the time. They must do like Ninja Warrior stuff at practice, okay? But I would probably say, but then somebody combated that by saying that, look at the stats. It will show you that San Diego State actually has a higher shooting percentage from three, which that absolutely stuns me, because you look at the lineup. I would trust Collins, and I don't really think Drake Allen's a shooter. He can make threes, but I don't consider him a shooter. Now Collins, Falslev, El Amin, Perryman, I wouldn't consider a shooter either. He did hit 4 out of 5 tonight, but King. So I guess that's 4 guys that I would. Well, I didn't even mention Tucker Anderson because he doesn't get off the bench anymore. But that's 4 guys that I absolutely would allow to shoot threes just about any time they want, that they're open. Collins, Falslev, El Amin, and Colby King, okay? And then you have a couple other guys who can make threes in Templin, Perryman, and Allen, okay? They're not great shooters, but they can make threes. Flip that to the other side. If you're San Diego State, obviously BJ Davis, I guess, and Miles Bird and Reese Waters. Okay. Beyond that, well, I guess Gwath, but he doesn't play. So I mean, Odin for me falls in the camp of like a Drake Allen, right? Or like a Carson Templin. I don't put much stock into him, or Newman really, or Harrington and Simmons aren't 3-point shooters. It's possible I'm forgetting somebody, but I don't know that I am. But look, there's not a massive difference. It's not like one team's a great shooting team and the other one's poor. They're close to where they are. I was just kind of commenting on the fact that San Diego State actually shoots better as a percentage than the Aggies do. So I trust Utah State shooting more than other teams. I do. Nevada GCU seems like a low-scoring grudge match. Well, that's what it was, Jake. A couple weeks ago when they played, and they don't actually play again. Nevada GCU, they don't play again. That's a game that's not on the schedule, believe it or not. So Nevada dodged a bullet there, not having to go to Phoenix. They were the one team that doesn't go to Phoenix this year, so we will not see that game again unless they match up in the 4-5 or the 3-6 in the conference tournament. So I agree, Jake, that Fresno, Wahlberg. Well, I don't know about Coach of the Year. He probably will not. Well, I don't know. We'll have to see. There's still 3.5 weeks left. The front runner well, not the front runner, but seemingly almost had it locked up like a week ago was Olin, but they lost 2 in a row, and they have several difficult games left. If they finish 13-7, I don't know if he'll win it. He may, but I don't know if he'll win it. We'll have to see who else finishes where they do. And, people vote for different reasons. I vote for who exceeds the expectations the most, whereas some kind of vote on who finishes higher or has the best team. I don't know. Yeah, Collins and Falslev only combined for 21, as I said. So that just goes to show you how much kind of depth they have too. Yeah, I agree, Jake. Utah State does not rely on one player to score. That's why they're so good. So BJ said that all 3 refs were top 75 at KenPom. I'm assuming that was for the Utah State game. Okay. Someone the other day, Dallin said, Utah State fan here, said Wahlberg's done an excellent job with Fresno State. Could get Coach of the Year votes. The bullshit mockery newsletter said he should be fired this season, but I disagree. He has a team competing well. Yeah, look. If he didn't get fired last year, they're not going to fire him this year. He's shown improvement. Now, as we all know in this conference, or really doesn't matter if they're in the Mountain West or next year in the Pac-12, Pac-10, whatever they're going to call it. He's at the risk of losing Gorey. We've been talking about Gorey in here. He's going to get an offer to go somewhere else and play. I mean, what are the odds that Gorey's back, right? Heidbrader's got to be out of eligibility. He's played for like 7 different teams, so he's got to be out of eligibility. Collins has been playing since like pre-COVID, so he's out of eligibility. He's got 2 good more than 2, but with Heidbrader and Collins gone, Wilson Jack, the big 7-footer inside, and Gorey, like those guys, do you think they're going to retain those guys? Like, I'd like them to, but I don't know that they will, right? Like, it's going to be difficult for them to do so. I don't think they're as poor in NIL funding as San Jose State is. But they're certainly not up there where some of the other teams are in our conference, right? They're just not. And so somebody else in conference or out of conference comes with a bag, as you guys like to say today. Like, how do you blame the guys for doubling or tripling or quadrupling their money to go play somewhere else? It's just the way that things are these days. So it's going to be frustrating when they land somewhere else, and then you're seeing them on highlight packages in other conferences next year, and then Wahlberg's got to start all over. But he's certainly shown a little bit more this year, because had he done what he did last year, it's very likely that this would have been his last season there. But I don't think so. That's an interesting question from Jake. How do you keep your team focused and playing at their best for the rest of the season? It's difficult if and when your goals are kind of out of reach, right? If you're a team that had aspirations to play in the postseason and you're kind of not there right now, you got to rely on your leaders for that, man. You really do. Like you're seeing, well, although a lot of teams don't have veteran guys anymore because they're all 1-year rent-a guys, but you got to have leaders. It doesn't necessarily have to be your captains. Oftentimes your captains are your leaders and your leaders are your captains, okay? That's the reason why they're your captains. But you got to rely on your veteran guys, your older guys, your guys that have been around. Do they want to keep digging and grinding and practicing hard and doing it? Or are they just out there to go through the motions and then kind of mailed it in, right? And we don't see that stuff on the practice floor and in the locker room. All we see is what takes place out on the floor, because sometimes that happens and you can see it then out on the floor. I'm not saying any teams in our conference, but I've seen it for years at this time of year, early, mid to late February, teams that are pretty much gonzo from tournament possibility, they just kind of like shut it down until the conference tournament, because not that the games mean nothing, but like they're just going to kind of conserve everything until they have one more run in them to try to win 3 games in 3 days or 4 games in 4 days, whatever conference setup they're in. And that's their last hurrah. Happens all the time in mid-major conferences, the Atlantic 10, the American, the West Coast. Well, not West Coast because that's just kind of Gonzaga and St. Mary's, but other conferences too, Mountain West and all up and down the line, even in big conferences. So it happens. It's difficult. You got to rely on your leaders. Like that's why you recruited them, or that's why you brought them into your program, because you like their leadership, or some of them, maybe not all of them, but you got to have some leaders in that locker room that can do that stuff. Okay. So yeah, Jake, it's interesting. I do appreciate Coach Passner's comments, and he yeah, that's funny, Jim. I got to stay. Listen, nothing is decided here. As BJ said, yeah, I appreciate the comment from Josh. That was great. Yeah. Josh making BJ's decision tough on what to do. BJ and I have talked about this a little bit. I mean, certainly I would like to stay, and, we haven't made any final decisions yet as far as what we're going to do next year. I would like to stay covering most of the teams that we cover now. I will feel like kind of, like I said a few minutes ago, I feel like yucky watching these, Air Force games. They just don't give me a good feeling. I will feel a little bit of yuck next year covering like Texas State and Oregon State and UTEP and UC Davis. Like that's not what I signed up for when I started following this conference. Now, it's going to be very difficult to follow every team. We have no idea how as we all know with the Mountain West, the schedules are beautiful. Like for me anyway, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes one game, sometimes whatever, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Other conferences aren't that uniform. They're just not. Freaking Big Ten plays like every night of the week almost, okay? So we have no idea what the Pac is going to do next year. Oftentimes that stuff is dictated by your television partners. So we have no idea what nights they're going to go. Are they going to go the same nights? Are they going to go different nights? The fact of the matter is, as much as I love doing this, I couldn't do it every single night. Like I'd pass out from exhaustion, right? Now I'm a lunatic. And so like I stay up all hours to do this. And for 2 weeks, because I like watching the Olympics, even like goofy stuff that you guys have no interest in watching, like skiing and, shooting and all that weird stuff, right? I like watching it for 2 weeks. And so I'll stay up and I'll hardly sleep at all, but I'll pay for it. And I couldn't do that for 2 months. So it's very difficult to do that over the course of 2 or 3 months in a full season. So I have no idea what the schedule will be like. I don't even know that we'll know that until like next October. So I doubt they're going to have like a joint press conference where the commissioners or the PR people of the two conferences say, well, we're going to play on this night and they're going to play on this night. Like, I don't think we'll see that until like the schedules come out. And even then, they shift games sometimes like the TV partners do. They schedule the games all on one block and then they'll move a game a day day later or a few weeks later to a Friday for TV purposes. So I don't know how it's going to work. We'll have to have some conversations and stuff like that. But, certainly some interesting stuff. I appreciate Coach Pastner's comments. And, fact is, he's a smart guy, right? He knows exactly what's going on. He knows that the conference needs exposure. And look, this is why one of those things, those of you that have listened to me from the very start on my pod, going back to my very first episode like 3 years ago, one of my mentors, a guy I coached with, said one of his quotes, and he took it from Morgan Wooten, a legendary high school coach over there in D.C. area who just passed recently a few years ago. He coached with Morgan. The guy was like the most well-known high school coach back before you started having all these factories in high school, okay, back when it was actually like high school. Not to say that DeMatha didn't recruit kids, but it was actually like high school sports, not academies and stuff, right? So Morgan's statement was, you whatever you do, you have to be first, best, or different, right? First, best, or different. And it's very difficult to be first at anything. It just is, because the minute that somebody starts something, you can't be first anymore, okay? It's also very difficult to be the best. You can be very good. It's very difficult to be the best, okay? What you can be is different. And I like the conference, and there was a void in exposure for the conference. Now we have incredible people that follow specific teams. BJ for one, Jeff Grammer, the Ag Ship. There's all up and down the conference. There's others too, okay, that I can't mention all of them, but there's several, right? But they're all within their own respective teams. Where I'm at over here, Big East, Big Ten, ACC, they have people that cover those conferences on a larger scale, right? So supply and demand, they don't need more people to do it because that would water it down. Whereas the Mountain West didn't really have anybody big picture. They have the Mountain West Network, okay, but they're just kind of working for their own entity there. So that's why I kind of jumped into the void and enjoyed, doing it. And Coach is right. The exposure is good for the conference. And, I've heard a lot of good things feedback wise, even before this show started with BJ here. He came up with this idea. We talked about it. It's been great. We've heard a lot of good feedback since it started. But even before that, people said, hey, you've done a really good job of getting the conference exposed, which I like to hear, because I had zero idea. I was not a social media person until I started doing this. So, kind of interesting. Sports, good stuff. I broadcast and cover San Jose State. It's been a mess all year with that inexperienced front court. Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned Maundi when Mupa Daly made the first three tonight. I thought that it was him, and the announcer was like mispronouncing his name because their first names are very similar, until I looked it up. And then I was like, I don't honestly even remember this guy. But yeah, it's unfortunate that they have so many guys out. They're already playing at a disadvantage. And so it's disappointing. So yeah, we'll see, Jake. We'll see what we do. There's no like, look, I could cover any team I wanted to. I don't have to just stick with one team here, but we'll see. Nick, good stuff with Pastner. He's a great interview for sure. Definitely not enough in the front court. So Pastner knew that. He took advantage. I didn't even really look at the points in the paint. What were they? 40-14. So, these guys know what they're talking about, right? Like I've criticized a few decisions that Pastner has made on here, obviously, but these guys still know basketball. Even Kruger last year, when I would criticize him, he still knows basketball. Pastner knew tonight. Showed him in the timeout. Hammer to paint. They don't have a shot blocker. And it's funny, if you watched and focused on that over the next 8 minutes after they showed that clip, it's exactly what happened. They attacked the paint, and San Jose State couldn't finish in the paint because Tyron Jones was in there, right? Yeah, exactly. How is Templin a 35% free throw shooter or a three-point shooter? I mean, that's a good percentage. If he's like your sixth best three-point shooter, you would take that. 35%, 35.5%. Are you kidding? That's fantastic. It's fantastic. Yeah, Jake, you don't get to watch curling a lot. I love watching the curling. Okay. Anyway, let's talk for 5 minutes on tomorrow. Huge game in the Globe with the Havocs in the house on a Wednesday night, 11 Eastern. And we got what? We got 11 Eastern on it's 10 Eastern. Oh, bonus for me. I get an extra hour then tomorrow. So 10 Eastern, 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific on FS1 again. So from the Globe, probably be crowded. They're off a loss. New Mexico, of course, off 2 losses. New Mexico drilled them by 20, in the pit about a month ago, 4 weeks ago. So Grand Canyon will be out for a little bit of revenge here, the same as Boise will be on Friday. I did see later, I looked a little bit ago, Grand Canyon only a 1-point favorite. That surprised me a little bit. Again, I know that stuff doesn't always ring true and end up mattering, right? Like there's different reasons. People have different reasons and thoughts on how they come up with these point spreads, right? We know that they're there to get equal action, all this stuff, but I think there's other things that go into it sometimes. And I see that line and that kind of screams to me like, oh, everybody's just going to say we should bet Grand Canyon. They're at home. They just beat San Diego State and Utah State at home. We should bet Grand Canyon here. And that's what I would call like a sucker bet, right? A sucker line. And New Mexico wins the game then. So, again, you might say, well, what are you talking about? Like they don't know what they're talking about. Well, sometimes I disagree. So again, that stuff doesn't always work out, but that was my initial thought when I saw that was a little odd, and I think that the odds makers there expect New Mexico to bounce back because they're both off a disappointing loss. Clearly, the home court matters there, as it does for both of these teams. But New Mexico's off 2 bad efforts. I think it's really kind of a measuring stick game for the Lobos here. I mean, obviously, if they want to have any shot at an at-large bid, they have to win this game. They still have to go to Utah State. Can they win there? Yes, it's probably 15% possibility, maybe 20 at most. Can't see him winning there. It's a toss-up at Nevada, toss-up, to be fair, at Nevada. And a slight favorite home San Diego State for them. Not big favorite at all. Slight favorite. So they're going to have a very difficult time winning 3 of those 4 games. If they do that, I think they'll find themselves in an okay position. If they go 2-2, they're in big trouble. Okay, they're in big trouble. And if they lose tomorrow, I don't know how they go 3-1, right? Like there's no way they'd sweep those last 3 against those 3 hammers at the top at the end of the season. So huge game for them. Grand Canyon's fighting for seeding here. Or other postseason play, right? Like they want to play in the NCAA tournament, but for their first year in the conference with a new roster, they would probably reluctantly take a bid in the NIT or the Crown. Not what they want, but step up in competition. They didn't play well to start the year. That Youngstown State loss is certainly hurting them, as was the one from Saturday at UNLV. But we'll see. Okay, I expect a good game. I expect kind of a lower scoring game. I would think that the emphasis the last few days here in practice from Olin and the Lobos has been defense, right? They gave up 80 to San Jose State. They gave up 90 to 86 to Utah State, and then they gave up 91 to Boise. So that's not the defense that we saw the prior month from New Mexico. So I would expect an emphasis in practice the last few days on defense. All right. They held, I think, Grand Canyon in the 60s when they played at home. I don't think Grand Canyon's a great offensive team. They shoot the ball a little bit better at home than they do on the road. But if you're the team that we thought they were for a while, you have to defend better here. And then it's up to you making enough shots. Okay. Because they're going to defend the crap out of you too. They're going to make it miserable on Hall. They have enough bodies in the front court to make it difficult on Bullion, the same way that Boise did on Saturday. Okay. And that's where the depth, they don't have the depth on the road in conference play. I don't trust, Miller tomorrow night. I don't know that Tannett can do it at home. I don't know that I trust Tannett on the road. Chol's been, on a cereal box lately as a missing in action. So I don't know. Or you're going to have to grind it out if you're a Lobo fan here. But it's got to start with the defense. It has to start with the defense and an under control Albury at the point. Who will play well? Yeah, that's what I think, Jake. I think it's going to be a physical game inside. I don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring. So I think it's going to come down to who can make more shots. GCU was in the game. That was the game where Drew got tossed. GCU was in it for 25 minutes, and then the Lobos just kind of took over. If the refs let them bang, if the refs let them bang around, you like GCU. If they call it tight, then you like New Mexico. Well, we'll see who has the whistles. Usually bigger cards. The reason why we got 3 good refs tonight at Utah State was because there were only about 20 games. We usually have about 40 or 50 then on Wednesday because a lot of the conferences play. And again, not many of the top guys like to hang out west. And so maybe we'll get a good guy or two. We'll see. But how are they going to call it? Is it going to be called the same for 2 halves, or are they going to shift it up at the half? No idea. Okay. All right. I'm going to get out of here. I've been at it an hour. Didn't even think I would go this long, but I'm glad, very glad to have Coach Pastner in. Great talker. We always knew that. There's a reason why he was on TV after he left Georgia Tech. He can speak. He can sell. There's a reason he can get guys in. You know, his team has been inconsistent. He said that they've had injuries. You know, they've also given a couple games away. Let's be honest and fair about it. But they've also had some really good wins. And I mean, man, do they have some good wins. So, you know, credit to him for keeping the guys afloat. Again, as I said on Saturday, I honestly didn't think they would show up against Grand Canyon, and they did, and they won. And they showed up again tonight in a game that was a prime letdown spot. We'll see what they have for Boise on Friday. Before we get to that one, we got one big one tomorrow night. Just talked about it. So I will be here. So that, as I said, 10 Eastern start, 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific. I'm sure that means 10:10 or 10:15. So 12:15 to 12:30-ish Eastern, 10:15 to 10:30-ish Mountain for the live show. Probably just go for a little bit less than an hour because it's the only game to talk about. I'll have a preview of the Friday game, a little bit of Boise UNLV. We'll talk about that for a few minutes. We'll see if we get a guest. Maybe not. We've had Drew on already from Grand Canyon. Have not had anybody from New Mexico yet. So maybe if they get a win, we'll try and grab somebody from the Lobos. If not, maybe we'll get a player from Grand Canyon. We'll see how it unfolds. But make sure you come on back. Last time, Sun Cruiser, iced tea vodka right here. Same one that I've had, but I've had some downstairs. And they're at the bottom at Mountain West BNN. Just click on it for a free subscription. Please help me out. So those of you that were in here, I know, Mile High, we got a Rams fan in here. Rams look faster tonight, needed to wins, poor competition, but see if they can turn around. Yeah, well, the big one for them, Mile High, is on Saturday, right? Because that's a team that's equal to them pretty much in terms of talent. They already lost to them, and it's a rivalry game. So that's your measuring stick game right there, right? Any wins against the top 5 for you are really bonus at this point. And so I think, like, you know, you have to win those games against Boise, UNLV, Fresno, and Wyoming. You already lost to Wyoming. It's your last scheduled game. I do believe they'll play again, but it's your last scheduled game against Wyoming. So that's certainly going to carry some extra importance in Fort Collins. You already lost to them in Laramie. So that's your measuring stick. We'll see if they can get it done there. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Enjoy the game tomorrow night. Hope for a good one. We need a nice game down the stretch, a game winner or some kind of last-minute overtime or whatever it might be. So hopefully that's what we get. Appreciate all of you guys being here. Thanks for being here, War Beast. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate everybody being here. Subscribe to the show. Come on back tomorrow night, and we'll see you then.